Greetings and welcome back to the stream. Sorry for the slight delay. I know that there's actually a couple of players in particular who are eager to see me get started because we're talking about a lot of new stuff tonight. However, been having a lot of behind-the-scenes kind of problems with this OBS and Streamlabs. Everything's kind of arguing with each other. Yeah, it's getting a little weird. But most of this has been taken care of. I should be able to properly see when people chat today. So hopefully that means I'm going to be able to answer questions appropriately. Still, let me go ahead and take some time to adjust this. Whew. We got a lot to talk about tonight. And I would really appreciate it if the volume would come down. If it's appropriate. Is it gonna work? I hit the button to make it get fixed. And it's not fixed yet. I don't know why. Alright, while I'm getting these things set up behind the scenes, I just want to go ahead and let people know kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight. We actually will be using this opportunity to talk about design elements for Dungeons & Dragons and tabletop role-playing games. We will primarily be using this as an opportunity to talk about the new Winter Song features and backgrounds. However, we will be using this evening as a way for me to also take some input on what sorts of things people want to see added to the features before I send it out tomorrow. And we're going to talk about some encounter design. So if you are in the mood to ask some questions related to how to build recurring villains, we are trying to figure out how to construct encounters where an adversary may be able to naturally abscond without having to magically teleport away or in any other capacity, just sort of sort of DM hand of God, remove them from the scenario. But with all of this having been said, still giving people an opportunity to jump on in for the evening. This is going to be a lot more Q&A style. The stream will last either until I am done discussing the current feats, or until people have run out of questions for me. Playing it very loosey-goosey with our stream this evening. There have been a number of people on my player side who have been asking questions related to what's new in Dungeons & Dragons. This is actually part of what we were discussing last time that I was on stream. We had one of our own players ask a couple of questions about that. And while we did kind of deviate a little bit from the general topic, the main sort of question ended up getting kind of mired in my usual rantiness. We're going to address a little bit of that when I'm talking about these features that I'm going to be going over. Just because I've been able to actually use this opportunity to find out even more related to this sort of lull in activity. What's that? Yeah, I got a little thing that I'm going to set up here. This lull in activity with print publishing coming from Wizards of the Coast. It has been an interesting thing to sort of watch. Where I expected Wizards of the Coast to have more of a I guess I would say, presence in publication, it would appear that that they actually have a new strategy of specifically looking at and for partnered content material. So while I'm getting this webcam set up, just know that that's part of what we're going to be using this opportunity to talk about tonight. Cool. I see that most of the stuff has already been set up. Yeah, I was trying to get this situated away before we handled streams tonight. However, once again, OBS and a couple of other things just not quite working the way that I want. I have to figure out what's going on here. Still, what are you gonna do? You're not gonna do nothing you can do. Still, I'm kind of rambling because I'm giving a couple people some opportunities to show up. I know that they have a couple of questions that they're trying to ask. So I'm going to... it looks like it's 7:30. We'll probably actually begin a little bit, like in 3 minutes. Before I begin, in case there does end up being anyone who has never seen or heard me before, anyone who has no clue what the hell is going on, they call me Thade. I run Wintersong Games. I'm not giving my real name. Here in Wintersong Games, we run tables for various TTRPGs, primarily Dungeons and Dragons. We have been running TTRPGs for over a decade and a half. And I've been working sort of with either at the table for nearly 2 decades now. The things that we discuss here on our stream are things normally related to game design elements, but also trying to teach new people how they can use these elements to help out their professional careers or their careers as an indie creator in the tabletop role-playing game sphere. This does not necessarily have to be related to TTRPGs specifically. Some of these things that we talk about can end up just being applied to game design as a general rule of thumb. Although you will find that most of them are almost strictly going to help you out with tabletop games and TTRPGs. I'm going to take a quick look here and see. I know that I'm waiting on a couple of people in particular who were hoping to join us this evening. Here we go. All right. Sweet. Looks like we got some folks. Okay. I'm not going to belabor it any longer, bore you all with what's going on. Instead, we're going to talk about features, how we've been developing them, and what you can look forward to coming out on the release tomorrow. So, if you are not aware, features in tabletop role-playing game terminology, it normally is a general blanket umbrella term for special abilities that your character is able to do. However, in Dungeons and Dragons, features are think of them as optional choices that you have to sprinkle onto your character sheet so that you can help build a character to function the way that you intended in your head. If you want a fighter who wants to be able to jump very far, sure, they can have a very high strength score and they can jump very far, but it would be really cool if they could jump even farther, like across massive chasms. A feature might be able to help you with that. A lot of things in D&D have ended up getting consolidated over the years. Now, some of this has to do with the 5th edition and 4th edition mentality of streamlining the rules to make the rules easier and more accessible to new players, which has ended up actually being a resounding success. More people play Dungeons & Dragons now than have ever played before. More people are playing TTRPGs now than have ever played before. And despite what a lot of the old heads and old edition purists might want to claim, the hobby space has never been as financially thriving as it is right now. Even in its kind of lukewarm, tepid period that it's currently experiencing, we are talking about a hobby that was very, very, very rarely able to break several $100 million a year in total sales for all tabletop games. Now pretty consistently breaking about 10 mil for all tabletop games. That's D&D, Settlers of Catan, Sheriff of Nottingham, Warhammer, all of that stuff combined on a regular annual basis is breaking over $10 billion. Which I know in a lot of modern monetary terms, it doesn't sound like that's actually much, especially when you hear these ridiculously massive bills that are coming up for NVIDIA, AI, graphics chips, and that sort of stuff. But for an industry that struggled for so very, very, very long, being able to continuously pull a $10 billion per year average is pretty impressive. So, what does this have to do with what we're talking about today? Well, since Dungeons & Dragons has decided to streamline a lot of its mechanical elements, what's ended up happening is they've sort of consolidated certain features and mechanical rules into a much shorter a bit of text, and then how they handle it is they cram in a couple of ideas together, and then instead of having to use multiple systems of mechanics, they use just one dice roll and it handles kind of everything. That's what streamlining for tabletop role-playing games means. It means you take multiple ideas and you reduce it to a single mechanical element. Now, this has had some benefits, like I said. It's also had some drawbacks. One of the drawbacks is, for example, firearms. A lot of people like to use Renaissance-era firearms when they are running their D&D tabletop games. You might find that people might try to have a single-shot musket or a single-shot, just a regular pistol in their tabletop setting. But there is a problem that arises. The mechanics of the game are built around your character being able to use many weapons and many different styles of attacking as possible. When you start introducing firearms, which have the ability to pierce through solid plate armor in real life, when you only need to get hit once in the right spot, and you're down, and when it's actually very complicated to be able to try and fire these things, and the amount of time that it takes to reload them isn't something that really translates well into an action-packed round after round combat scenario. What they've ended up doing is making it so that you get to fire the gun once in your turn, and it does like about the same amount of damage as a heavy crossbow. And sometimes they might jam. That's kind of it. And there used to be features that might help you out with some of that stuff. You might be like, hey, I want to be a gunslinger, but I want to shoot my gun multiple times per turn. So they might give you a feature, an optional thing that you can take when you level up, that says, no, you get to reload your gun multiple times. But that's not really a mechanical element that's expressed in the game in its current state. In the current state of the game, they don't want you to be able to fire firearms a lot of times. They don't want you to be able to do these things. So what they've ended up doing is just nerfing firearm damage and letting you handle it and removing rules. Well, I want to play firearms. I want to have a gun. I want to do something. This is just one example. Jumping used to be more involved, like actually making long jumps. Literally eating. There used to be benefits to eating higher quality food. There used to be many spells in the game that had material components. And if it said that it had a material component, you had to have the material component in your character's inventory. And when you cast the spell, the material component went away. So, famous example, made famous by Critical Role, when Caleb Widowgast would take his bat guano and smear it and send out his fireball. That spell does not actually consume the bat crap that Caleb smears on his palm for the material component for the spell. It used to, though. And while people complained that it disrupted the general flow of combat, being able to go from one combat to another, having a quick little side, like, hour-long thing where maybe your character had to go find a cave in the woods to collect bat shit, used to make the game a little bit more fun. It's a little bit less accessible, though. Not quite as easy to get a game flowing for new players if they have to stop and manage a lot of resources. So, with this in mind, what I have tried to do for the new features that I am adding to Wintersong's Games Compendium is I'm trying to limit the addition of many new mechanical elements and instead expand on the ideas of making one roll to kind of solve everything and then bouncing off from there. Let me go ahead and give you some examples. Let's see here. This document that I have pulled up on the other side of the screen is the Feats and Abilities document that's going to be released to all paying players of Wintersong Games currently sitting at a table. If you want to get your hands on this document, I'm going to be setting up a Patreon. What's going to happen is, on Patreon, every single day, a new page of a document is going to be published. You will be able to get one more page of the doc every single day. It's going to be something like $5 a month. So look forward to that if you don't want to pay for a game but still want to get your hands into some of this stuff. But let me go ahead and show you one thing here. I'm going to highlight it if I can. I don't actually think I don't have a highlighter. Oh wait, yes I do. Yeah, there it is. Okay. What I have ended up doing is I have added a feature called Roll to Pin. This is something that actually kind of used to exist, sort of, in previous editions of the game. Grapple is a mechanic that a lot of players don't invest a lot of time in modern Dungeons and Dragons. They have realized that by reducing the ways that your players are able to interact with creatures that don't involve hard violence, that means that your characters are encouraged to kill everything and ask questions later. And they start thinking of new ways to try and not kill people, instead of just doing really basic, simple things that we used to do back in the day, like, I want to tackle this person. I want to tackle this person and I want to pin him to the ground. And you can actually do that. And it kind of doesn't really exist right now in D&D. They are adding more items, features, and actions that help you grapple other opponents. Grapple here meaning literally grabbing onto someone, grabbing them by the arm, and preventing them from being able to move away from you. Doesn't really do anything else, but at the very least, you're holding on to them, and they ain't going anywhere. But what if you want to do more? What if you want to pin them to the ground? What if you want to disarm them? What if you want to arrest them? Roll to pin is a new feature that's going to help you out with that. It says here, your training has granted you the ability to harmlessly, although not peacefully, restrain your targets, allowing you to incapacitate threats and deal with them safely. After you have managed to grapple a creature, you may then make another unarmed strike grapple attempt on that creature. If it succeeds, you and the target creature both go prone, if either of you are able. And they become restrained by you. So this is pretty simple. When you grapple someone in Dungeons & Dragons right now, that's it. That's all that you can do. You've grappled them. There's nothing more that you can do to them relating to grappling or subduing or anything like that. This will actually help you subdue them. So let's say you grab onto someone. What this feature says that you do next is you then drop them to the ground and sort of bring both yourself and them down to the ground, and you're actually pinning them back and restraining them. When a creature is restrained in D&D, not only can they not move, attack actions that they're trying to make have disadvantage, and they have a number of other debilitating effects that get applied to them. One of the big things is incoming attack rolls have advantage. So this helps you, especially if you were playing something like a monk character, since all monk attacks are basically considered to be unarmed strikes anyway. You can grapple someone as a monk pretty readily, pretty handily, get them, and then using your extra attack, just drop them to the ground. All is part of one seamless action. And then you can wail on them with your flurry of blows, bonus action. After you have restrained a creature this way, at the start of your next turn, you may make another grapple attempt against that creature. If this succeeds, they become incapacitated. This final attempt does not use your action economy. So this is sort of the crux of this ability, this feature. Once you actually get somebody down on the ground, what you can try to do is actually make it so that they can't do any actions of any type at all. When you pinned somebody in older editions of the game, it's not like now. They didn't get to use an attack. They didn't get to, like, even if it's at disadvantage. They didn't get to continue doing things like normal. If you pinned somebody, that's it. They're out. It's done. They need to break free from you before they could really do anything else. So this kind of brings that back. After you actually drop someone on the ground, you then get to try and grapple them again. And if your new grapple succeeds, they get incapacitated. Creatures that you restrain or incapacitate in this way get an additional escape attempt at the start of each of their turns. So normally in D&D, if you're trying to break free from a grapple or restrain condition, that sort of thing, you have to use your action and you attempt to break free. While this feature does let you more easily and more readily drop people and put them onto the ground, it also makes it easier for them to get away from you. Well, perhaps not easier, but they get multiple attempts to do so. They are able to get at the start of their turn, they're able to get a free attempt right off the bat. So it is not quite as long-term powerful as things used to be in older edition. It is bringing back some of those extra mechanics that I was talking about that's missing from the game, but it's using all of the current game's version mechanics. And it hasn't really ditched any of the core fundamental elements that they are using for modern D&D game design. This is how I've been applying... This is the thesis that I apply, rather, to basically everything that I'm trying to use for the Winterheart campaign document. There's a variety of extra abilities that are coming with this features document. We're going to go through some more of them later. This is just a little bit of a preview. As you can see, it's only a few pages long. But there are roughly 25, 26 features that are on here. We're going to take the time to go over some of them. They're currently a little bit out of order. That's going to be fixed before the release tomorrow morning. So let's go ahead and let's see if I can... How do I undo the highlight? Hey, I don't need you highlighted anymore. Go away. I don't know how to undo it. What does it say here? It's not helping. Well, let's start talking about firearms, since the first features have to reply button. Firearms in Dungeons & Dragons have long been controversial. A lot of people say that it breaks the fantasy aesthetic, although D&D was never old grit fantasy the way that a lot of people kind of incorrectly remember it to be. Even back in first edition, they were blending together a sort of Renaissance style knightly and adventurous behavior, kind of coupled with that high fantasy elements of like post-Tolkien magic and sorcery. Since it was built off of all of the war games that, really that entire group of old heads were working on and playing, though there were not originally firearms in those first edition rules, the inclusion of things like crossbows, particularly the big crossbows and ballistae and things, really were incorrect for these older time periods. A lot of people get this kind of confused. By the time that trebuchets and large ballistae were being employed as siege weapons, rudimentary gunpowder devices were already being invented, although they weren't being widely distributed. It wouldn't be for about another 100 years, but when you're looking at this setting aesthetic, yeah, it's kind of right in that time zone. So what I have ended up doing for my firearms system is I have made it so that firearms have loading and reloading properties. They also have new negative statuses. When a firearm has a reload, that means you need to spend some form of your action economy to reload the firearm, whether it's a reaction, an action, or a bonus action. That's actually in D&D. Then there is the loading property. The loading property means there is some sort of mechanical element to the device that prohibits you from being able to fire it more than once per round. While this is not, I'm going to say, the most accurate or apt way of being able to handle the situation. This is what they've decided to go with for D&D 5th Ed. They use reloading in order to reflect certain mechanical devices that can be fired within the same 10-second period. And then they use loading for basically any sort of mechanical device that in the real world would have required longer than 10 seconds before you would be able to fire it again. The guns that I designed are items that use both the reloading and loading item properties. When it comes to actually using these weapons, I've always felt that the negative trade-offs of using a firearm were a little bit underpowered. And because of that, the developers decided to nerf the damage that a firearm would deal. If you got hit with a bullet coming from a rifle from the year 1400, you are going to get a hole in your body roughly the size of a $50. And it was going to go, hopefully, through your other side and leave a hole in your body roughly the size of a tea saucer. If you were unlucky, it wouldn't have an exit wound, and it would exist as shrapnel within your body, and you would almost certainly die within, if not hours, then days, as a result of the shrapnel. Having your firearm do 1d8 damage when a two-handed greatsword does 2d6 damage isn't appropriate. But this is what they came up with because they couldn't figure out how to make firearms costly and slow to use and function. So what I decided to do was implement a couple of just real quick sort of changes. First off, for my firearms, you have disadvantage on using them unless you stop moving. Now, once you stop moving, you no longer get the disadvantage, and instead you get advantage. So it's basically a complete binary spectrum. It's either working well or it's working poorly. If you're moving around and firing a pistol, good luck. You're going to be firing that attack roll at disadvantage. But if you planting, firm, aiming, firing, even by very old standards, within 100 feet of your target, you're probably going to hit. It's only once they start getting to those long ranges, 120, 240 feet and longer, where those ancient sort of, as we would call them, arquebuses and muskets start going wildly off target. The spin on the actual shot would hit the wind and just fucking carry in the completely opposite direction. So, in Winter Song, if you're moving around at all, your guns have disadvantage. Now, when you stop moving, you get advantage. That's one way that we trade it off. Another way is every single gun has loading. So that means every single gun can only be fired once per round. That's it. Most guns have reloading that is more than the numerical value of 1. So what would happen is, instead of you needing to do 1 reload action, bonus action, or reaction, now you have to do 2, or 3, or 6. And now it's actually reflective of the time investment that it takes in order for you to get that next shot ready. The features that I have added for firearms are designed to use these very simple rules and just kind of expand on them even further. So again, moving causes disadvantage, staying put causes advantage. When you shoot the gun, you're going to have to spend a little bit of resources in order for you to load it back up. So, as we're getting into these feats, you're going to notice that just by adding these quick little elements, we're actually able to make features that have really big impacts on the gameplay. We're going to start off actually with this one up top here, Minutemen. Named after, of course, the U.S. colonial Minutemen. This feature says, Minutemen are able to spring into action at a moment's notice, ready to engage the enemy whenever needed. When a creature takes this feat, they gain the following benefits. 1, you gain proficiency with firearms. That means that you get to add your proficiency bonus when you use a gun. 2, you no longer need to set your movement speed to 0 to use the aimed property of firearms. That means Minutemen don't get the disadvantage thing that I was talking about earlier. When you take this feat, now you get to move around the battlefield and shoot your gun and still be able to aim it properly. Non-hazardous and non-magical, meaning not directly from spellcasting. Difficult terrain does not impede your movement. So difficult terrain in D&D, if you don't know, is basically any sort of environment that sort of slows or haggards your progress. So you have to spend an additional 5 feet of movement every time that you move 5 feet in a square. Minutemen, however, so long as it is not difficult terrain that's cast because someone has made a block of ice with magic or whatever, they don't have to worry about difficult terrain. They move around like it's normal. And then they also get an increase to their movement speed 10 feet per round. So that means they get to move 2 more spaces per round. So as you can see, the Minutemen feature directly references the rules that I was talking about for the firearms. But instead of necessarily giving you a boatload of extra damage, it adds a ton of functionality to your character by adding a lot of mobility options. You move faster. Difficult terrain doesn't slow you down. You don't have to stop moving to shoot a gun. All of these things end up covering up a slot that I think was sort of missed when they were designing firearms-related rules. I'll expand upon it with gunnery. Gunnery is the next feat. It's based off of all of the other similar like hand crossbow sharpshooter feats that are in Dungeons and Dragons. Excuse me. When you pick it up, it starts off, you get to add your constitution or dexterity by 1. You become proficient in firearms. You ignore reload 1 with firearms. Now, what that means is, if a weapon has the firearm property and a reload property of 2 or higher, you reduce the reload property by 1. Otherwise, you just ignore the reload property, right? Because it's reload 1, and you ignore reload 1. So you can just reload the gun without using an action, or bonus action, or reaction, just whatever you want. But if it's 2 or higher, that just means once per turn, okay, you've got like part of it done. Now you have to get the rest of it done. And if it's like a gun that has reload 2, you might be like, all right, reload 1, and now I use my bonus action, reload 2. Okay, there we go, and now I get to shoot again. This stacks with other features that provide this benefit, but not if you take this feature multiple times. So there are other features in this book that help improve your reload speed. Gunnery will work with those. But even if you take gunnery or, multiple times or whatever, then only if you use a different feature. Now, normally in D&D, when you are within 5 feet of someone, that is considered to be something called a threat range. That's the term for it. That's when there's a creature that is on the square next to you. So, with something that is on a shared threat range, when you're trying to make a ranged attack, that creature gives you disadvantage. If you are trying to attack a creature with a ranged weapon or ranged spell attack, and you've got some hostile jackass who's standing right next to you, you make these rolls at disadvantage, even if it's against a different guy. Gunnery says, no. Being within 5 feet of a creature does not impose disadvantage on your ranged attack rolls. Now, there's something that happens with certain guns where they misfire. One thing that gunnery provides, the last thing that it provides, is if you do suffer a misfiring, you can ignore it. Once per long rest. You can basically once per day. You are able to resolve the situation before it develops into a problem for your firearm. So again, gunnery doesn't really help you with direct dealing a lot of damage, doesn't really increase guns and make them more viable, but what it is just one more piece of the puzzle that would help you fill in missing spots in the rules. Yeah, text. Give me a second. What do we got here? I think my little brother's texting me. Looks like my little brother's checked in on the stream. What's up, D? Big shout out to Big D. But yeah, there are a few extra things that I have included with these firearm rules, hindering, jamming, and a few other things. Not really important right now, so I'm not going to talk about them. What I am going to talk about is the next feature that I have for firearms. This one right here. It's called Bombardier. A little bit of this is high fantasy. This one is actually not necessarily based in realism. This one actually does help you with the damage for a weapon. However, there is some realism that's being involved here. Let me explain. A bombardier is able to gain more usage out of their firearms at a grossly disproportionately potential risk in some instances. When reloading a weapon, a creature with bombardier can insert 2 pieces of ammunition instead of 1. When the weapon is then fired, if it hits, it will deal twice the base damage die of the weapon and its ammunition. This effect does not apply to extra weapon damage provided from spells, poisons, etc. Once the weapon is fired, the creature then rolls a d6. The number rolled this way determines the outcome of abusing the firearm. So, my firearms don't deal like 1d8. What they do is 3d4 or 3d6 or even 3d12. They deal multiple dice, but of like lower numbers. When you are doing Bombardier, you double that number. So instead of 3d4, it's 6d4. Instead of 3d6, it's 6d6 or 6d12. Now, there's a mechanic in the game where you can put poison and stuff like that on your guns, on your weapons, on your knives, on whatever. And you might do an extra 4d6 damage because you poisoned. Bombardier does not allow you to double the poison damage. It's still the same amount of poison. It's just you're using 2 rounds of ammo for 1 shot. Now, when you roll on that d6, the best one that you can roll is a 6, but anything that you roll has a negative outcome. If you do roll a 6, the gun becomes like heated. It's like super hot. You need to let it cool down. If you use it before the end of your next turn, then you need to re-roll on the table again. And then obviously if you bombardiered it and then you fired it again, you roll on the table twice. And that's not exactly a healthy decision to make, because there is about a 17.5% chance that you roll a natural 1 on your d6, at which point the item is destroyed. Since a firearm is made of multiple pieces of machinery, it cannot be fixed via mending or similar effects. The item can be repaired using appropriate tools in exchange for spare parts equal to 1/4 the item's total value, and the repairs take 24 hours to make. I made guns hella expensive in my campaign setting. So this is a feature that is kind of meant to be used in Winterheart, in my rule setting. Buying a pistol will set you back 500 gold. That's just a regular pistol. You're getting a +1 version of that regular pistol, that's 1,500 gold. If you're trying to get like a +3 long-barreled rifle, one of the better guns that are available, actually it's kind of like the best gun that's available on my item sheet for my players, you're looking at spending like 15,000 or more gold on that item. So when I tell you that you spend 1/4 of the item's total value, that means that you gotta drop 4 grand on your gun and wait 24 hours before you get to use it again. So you really don't want to roll them that once. Now if you roll a 2, the item is warped. You still gotta repair it, but you can just repair it for free during a long rest. If you roll a 3, the item is jammed and hindered. You need an action to clear out the jam, and then until it's repaired, using a short or long rest, it fires at disadvantage no matter what. Now if you roll a 4, it's just hindered. Fires at disadvantage until it's repaired. Short or long rest. If it's 5, it's just jammed. Clear out the jam using an action, then you get to fire it again. So, Bombardier helps you actually increase the amount of damage that you do, but there are grossly negative effects when you use them. So this is the design philosophy that I'm employing for these features and abilities. Pretty rudimentary stuff. Take an existing system, just build on it a little bit. Take an existing system, build on it a little bit. And then when you want to build more, don't fuck around with the system that the developers have been working on. You're going to cause conflict with your players. You're going to cause confusion with your players. You're going to cause confusion with yourself, because now you're going to remember what the actual rule and what have you guys been doing. Just take little steps further and just advance on what's already been built. Firearms are already in the game. Grappling is already in the game. Just add on little bits more and little bits more and little bits more, and now you have this system where only if you or the players choose to interact with it, it'll never come up. Do your players look at all this and they're like, this is too many freaking rules to be able to fire a gun? Cool. You don't have to do any of it. They make D&D guns, and it's like, you know, you get like a 1d8 when you shoot a pistol, and then that's it. You just want to be able to shoot a pistol, and you don't care about the damage or recreating any of that. You don't have to. Just use the D&D gun. These just take all that stuff that's already there and build. And then there's also some feats. Actually, this first page is a great way for me to talk about the feats that are in this thing. There's some feats, like this one right here, Hook, Line, and Sinker, where they're just fun. I made these types of feats for people who have an idea for who their character is in mind. And there's not really a whole lot of ways for you to be able to pull this off in D&D, but this helps. I've actually had, across the past several years, 4 different players who have rolled characters who were fishermen. Like specifically fishermen. Like they wanted their character to be like a fisherman who goes off on an adventure, or a fisherman who washed up on a shore somewhere and has to fight his way back to civilization. Something like that. Hook, Line, and Sinker is something that I have built for them. What it says here, you get to increase your strength, dex, or wisdom by 1. Now, when you're using a fishing pole as part of a fishing or survival check, I have fishing rules. They are in the vehicles and violence rule system that I designed. Not important, not going to talk about them. But when you make these rolls, you may do so at advantage. Now, when wielding a fishing pole as a weapon, which it does count as a weapon, they are improvised weapons. When you wield a fishing pole as a weapon, you have a reach of 20 feet. So you can actually sort of cast a line out and friggin' slash at somebody using the fishing pole, using that hook at the end. Now, creatures no more than 1 size category larger than you that you hit with the fishing pole as part of an attack must beat a grapple challenge from you. If they fail, they get grappled. So just like before when I was talking about roll to pin, you can make those grapple attempts. Hook, Line, and Sinker, if you use that 20-foot reach fishing pole and you catch onto somebody, you can try to grapple them up with it, wrap them up in some of the rope and some of that fishing line. And then at the start of your turn, creatures grappled by your fishing pole can be reeled in closer to you until they are 5 feet away. So you grapple them, right? But then you gotta wait. They get the chance to break free, or try and run away, or whatever, or kill you, at the start of your next turn. Then you get to reel them in. So if they were running away, you can just be like, and pull them back in there and just start wailing on them, or, you know, reel something out of the water and onto land. Who knows? All right. Now, I see that we have a couple people here in chat. I think I have a couple of my players. I see Princely is here. What's up? Let me ask real quickly, does anyone have a specific type of feature that you were really trying to look forward to, or that you had asked me about before that you want me to talk about? Or should I just keep going with what's been done thus far? Oh, hi there. Oh, hi, Tony. Oh, hi. What's up, dog? I need to figure out how I can actually see who's in the chat. Because I don't know what I'm doing. Willow does know about these feats. Yes, Willow has actually been informed about some of the firearms feats. We've discussed a couple of them. And then I told Willow that once the feat thing come out that they could look forward to a few more. There actually is another one. More of what I have. Okay, cool. Let me actually show you another one that I've done for Willow. Rapid Draw is not the name of it. Where's the one that I made? Give me a second here. No, Rapid Draw. That's it. Here's another one, firearms related. Rapid Draw. When you make the attack action on your turn, you may choose to stow what is in your hand and draw a firearm as part of the same action. So, in D&D, you already, without using any action economy, so no action, bonus action, reaction, any of that stuff, you get to put something that is in your hand away and take something out and put it in your hand. That is called stowing and drawing. You get to do that for free. Or you can draw two things. Or you can stow two things. That can be done for free. Rapid Draw lets you put something away and specifically draw a gun, and it doesn't use your action economy either. This one also has it ignores reload 1 with firearms. And then this one also lets you add your proficiency bonus to your initiative. And then this has actually already been changed. Rapid Draw makes it so that after you shoot an enemy with a gun, you are able to move up to half of your movement speed closer. Half of your remaining movement speed, closer to that creature, without losing the disadvantage from using the firearms. This is another one that's just meant to sort of help out gunner mobility. Since the guns that I have designed are expensive, limit your mobility, limit the ways in which you can use them, but they have a greater impact damage-wise. The features that I have made for firearms pretty much entirely revolve around you being able to use the firearms more frequently and you being able to move around while also using them. Let's see here. Got to get a window that captures chat. Yeah, no, I set it up and then it went away. Like, I actually did a quick stream. Started it at about like 6:15, and then I was going to make these big announcements, right? That stream is starting. But then the chat didn't show up. And it didn't show up on the stream either. I gotta figure out what's going on. But yeah, let's talk about some more feats, since you wanted to hear some more feats. Actually, let me look here. Pull open this folder. So, some of you who are my players have already interacted with the Wintersong dungeons. You've been inside of them. You've seen how they operate. The future writing for these Wintersong modules are going to be a lot more involved with these dungeons. I've been doing a lot of stuff outside of the dungeons to help tell these stories. But now I've explored a lot of the stories that I wanted to tell as a DM, and now I've really been trying to get back into the kind of I wouldn't say humble roots, but more like the central element of the setting itself, which are the dungeons. And to that end, There are a number of feats and backgrounds, which I'm not going to pull up the doc just now, that specifically revolve around your ability to live in, make money off of, manage, or just survive dungeons and dungeon encounters. I'm going to take a moment to go over some of these feats. So the first one is the Dungeonologist. You increase your int or whiz by 1. When you make an ability check to identify the properties, usefulness, or valuable, not valuable, or value of harvestable resources from any non-humanoid creature, you may add your int and whiz mods if they were not already added. So let's say if I'm making you roll an Arcana check for some of you, in order for you to determine if there's any cool shinies that get left behind. I knew Tony was gonna like this. If there's any new shinies that are in there, like you might be able to carve out the teeth, and the teeth are like enchanted and do cold damage, and you can turn them into a wicked cold wolf fang ice dagger sort of deal. This will allow you to add it is both your int and wisdom, provided that you're not already doing it. So Arcana is normally int, but you get to add your wisdom to it as well. Survival is normally wisdom. Well, now I'll let you add your int to it as well in order to figure this stuff out. You also gain proficiency in alchemist supplies or herbalism kits. When using the tool you have chosen from this feature to identify, harvest, or craft with using materials harvested from a creature or dungeon, you gain expertise. Again, sorry, kind of stumbled over myself there. Basically, you get alchemist supplies or you get herbalism kit. And then when you're using that tool to harvest something or identify something, or you're crafting with something, you get expertise. So you get to add your proficiency bonus twice. But it specifically has to be the kit that you picked with this feature. And it has to be a creature or material that's coming from a dungeon. And then the last one is if you were to fail a saving throw against a trap, trick, or hazard, you may choose to succeed instead. And you can only do that once per short rest. So a lot of these dungeons, some of them have traps. Some of them are traps left behind by other people. But a lot of them have tricks and hazards. Tricks aren't used a lot. From a writing element, it implies intelligence. So it's kind of difficult to put them in a lot of randomized scenarios. And it's also really difficult to put a trick down if you're not burglaring some wizard's house. You know what I mean? So what I do in my dungeons is there are occasionally tricks that are things like the water fountain that you are drinking water from actually is full of sand, and you drink a mouthful of sand. It's some sort of trick. You stepped on a mushroom. The mushroom spore covers your feet because you stepped on a mushroom, and now the trick is your shoes are you're growing mushrooms out of your shoes. You need to hurry and get your shoes off, or it's going to start growing mushrooms out of your feet. Yeah, I could tell Tony's probably really looking forward to some of these dungeon delving features and abilities. With this one, what we're really going for is adding some more elements specifically for the Winter Song stuff, which is coming out. But the big one that's really going to help is hazards. Hazards are any material that exists when you are designing a map or environment that could potentially cause your characters, your players, damage or any other type of just sort of general threat. That threat could be something along the lines of quicksand. Quicksand is a a hazard. Um, you would also be able to see like there might be like a sheet of violet fungus, and you happen to notice that when your party is going to examine this fungus, like, hey, it's all over the ground. Is this thing like hazardous? Like it's actually gonna like hurt us? When you breathe on it, the fungi is reacting to your breath, and it's like moving closer to you guys. It might be like, okay, yeah, this is a problem. And it turns out, yeah, stepping on this fungi causes intense burns. Maybe it's something where it's like there's like dangling plants from the ceiling and they're acidic or poisonous. And maybe the hazard is something like there are ticks or lice or leeches. Maybe the hazard is something along the lines of there's some sort of parasite, you know, or it could be an infectious disease is a hazard. Or it could even be a hazard as in like a minimal creature type of deal. There are certain creatures that are counted as hazards, like certain oozes and stuff like that. This would help you with being able to manage a lot of that stuff. Now, you can only do it once per short rest. But at the very least, if you are on death's door and you absolutely cannot fail another saving throw, they should help you out. Alright, Delver is the next feature. You increase your con, dex, or whiz by 1 on all ability checks to locate a hidden door, treasure, or trap. You may add your int and whiz modifiers if they were not already added. The DM is not obligated to tell you if this bonus is relevant. So, when you are looking for secret doors, you might be saying something like, I want to go look for a secret door. The DM would be like, all right, you know, you need to make a perception wisdom check. You get to add your int to it. And it doesn't matter if it's relevant. It doesn't matter if the door is there. It doesn't matter if there are any secrets or not. I'm not going to tell you that. Your DM shouldn't tell you that. We'll just let you know what you see based on the number that you provided. So it's like, okay, so I got a 19, and then I add +3 because I'm also adding my intelligence to this. So go, okay, here's what you say. For my players, what I'm going to start doing is people who have this feat, when I have you make a perception and investigation, I might tell you, if you have this feature, to add your int or wisdom, even if there is nothing there. So, the DM is not obligated to let you metagame. In fact, they are encouraged to kill your metagaming potential. What's funny is Princely yesterday on our session for Friday, there actually are fairies that were eating raw wolf, ripping chunks of it. And they had like these blood spore fairy dust things that were coming off of their wings. And then, 2 members of the Friday group are now cursed because they picked up hazardous items. So, very, very relevant. These would have come in handy for a few people in the Thursday and Friday groups very recently. Plus, you know, poor Naga. Cursed once again on Thursdays. Losing that little ring finger. But that's not all. Because you see, on all ability checks and saving throws to avoid traps, tricks, and hazards, you have expertise. So the Delvers are all about avoiding and finding hidden shit in the dungeon. You also have proficiency in cartographer's tools. You're able to make 2-scale dungeon maps using these tools with only one hand while exploring. So you can make really good maps of a dungeon. You will also be able to spend 10 minutes studying an object. And when you do so, you will be able to determine if it will sell for more than 50 gold, 100 gold, 500 gold, or 1,000 gold. If you find something and you spend 10 minutes on it and it's worth less than 50 gold, you learn its approximate value. Yeah, so the Delver feature turns you into Indiana Jones. You were able to determine the relative value of something. You were able to avoid and find traps easier. And you are able to make maps more effectively. But that's not all. Dungeon survivalists. They get to add int, whiz, or charisma by 1. After you spend 30 minutes preparing, you cast Purify Food and Drink on up to 10 pounds of food and water. This works even on extremely and magically tainted flesh from creatures and liquids. Also, when using the survival check to track a creature, you have expertise. And when performing a medicine check to determine the nature of a poison or disease, you also have expertise. So, Dungeon Survivalist. I know it doesn't seem like a whole lot. But the ability, what they have that's a little bit broken, is they are basically able to endlessly cast the spell Purify Food and Drink. It takes them 30 minutes, and then they cast the spell on up to 10 pounds of food. There has been a minor change that has been added. After you make the survival or medicine check, you are granted advantage on any tools that you use, either to help you track that creature or neutralize that poison or disease. That's the only thing that's been changed since I made this doc. Yeah, relative value. It belongs in a museum! So do you! Yeah. I just watched a bunch of indie movies. It's good. Now, currently, to my players, we are not going to be dealing with this in all of the currently running sessions. We are not dealing with this at all. We're not going to be using this. This is not going to be a thing that I will let you take, because it was going to be a waste of a feature. There is a rule system that is being added to the Wintersong Compendium related to building your own dungeon. You need to have a dungeon heart in order for you to build your own dungeon. In fact, on the backgrounds file that has been uploaded for all paying players to be able to see, and it is available for $5, wink wink nudge nudge, if anyone else is interested in getting 32 additional backgrounds, each of them complete with new features. There is a Dungeon Heart Master background. The Dungeon Architect builds off of that. You need a Dungeon Heart. You become proficient in the type of tools, carpenters, masons, and smiths. And then you are able to craft Dungeon Hearts into Haven Gems. Takes 84 hours, takes additional 1,000 gold, and you can work on it during a short rest, so it doesn't necessarily have to always be during downtime activity. When you use a Haven gem, once every 24 hours you can activate it, and you create a 30-foot radius Haven space around yourself for an hour. This is stuff that is revolving around the Dungeon Heart management system. Haven gems you are able to put inside of items or vehicles, and it turns the item or vehicle into something similar to... if you are not one of my players, I'm very sorry for the words that you are about to hear. The Hello Kitty Nyan Nyan Ultra Deluxe Black Neko Neko Edition Haven bag. Or stuff like the Tanzanzagen, or the bags of holding. Those are all examples of Haven spaces. Haven gems will let you turn the inside of them into a Haven space. Haven spaces are part of the dungeon building mechanic. They're basically spaces where dungeon monsters, hazards, and the dungeon heart itself is unable to impact you. Think of it as a tiny hut, but big. So yeah, Dungeon Architect, not really going to get too involved in describing what's going on with this thing, because we're not going to use them. Yeah, you have the Hello Kitty Nyan Nyan Neko Neko edition. I think you have the Kuro. I think you guys have the Brazian Deluxe as well. I can't remember if you have that one on the Friday. But let's move on, because I'm tired of saying that. It's the Dungeon Dweller is the next feature. The time you have spent within dungeons has influenced your mind and body, making you more adept at combating the unique dangers that dungeons provide. You increase Con, Dex, or Whiz by 1, but you learn Undercommon. And then any saving throw that you make from a trap, trick, or hazard is done at advantage. And you are aware of nearby changes made to the dungeon by the Dungeon Heart from within the past 7 days. You are able to determine what is a recent change, but cannot determine what those changes replaced. If this change involved the creation of a new secret, trap, trick, or hazard, you have advantage to detect and avoid them. So Dungeon Dweller is meant to represent people who live inside of dungeons like their entire lives. They just have this natural, innate ability for them to say, yeah, the wall was moved here. I don't know what was here before, but the wall was moved here about 3 days ago. And it looks like if you step in the light over there from that light shaft, a bunch of daggers are going to come out and get fired at you. So these are the primary dungeon feats. When you combine some of these dungeon feats together, particularly with some of the dungeon backgrounds, you will dominate. If you combine just Delver and Dungeon Dweller, for example, it is incredibly difficult for anything but the most powerful of dungeon monsters to be able to come after you. So, as we can see, once again, we take rules that already exist in D&D, and then other than the Dungeon Architect, all that you do is just keep building on them. You don't change what's already there, you just keep going. The rest of the features are all features that kind of revolve around combat in some way. And we're going to breeze through them in a second. Did you seriously just laugh at the word shaft? I need to get Ren the fuck away from you people. Because apparently there is a massive... I would never have expected that it would have been Ren. It would have been the one that would have infected you all. I thought that you degenerates and your absolutely disrespectable hobbies and interests were going to take that poor new player who had never even touched Dungeons and Dragons before and corrupt their innocent little heart. But no. They're the problem. You've done nothing. Okay. Not nothing. Alright? Okay? Not nothing. Don't Principal Skinner me. This is not a Principal Skinner moment. This is not a Principal Skinner moment. Let's talk about some more features. Let's talk about the Vicious Cutthroat. So, when you pick this one, Strength or Dex increases by 1. After using a weapon that deals piercing or slashing damage, you can attempt to blind your target. They make a con save against a DC. If they succeed, nothing happens. The condition lasts either until the blinded creature's end of their next turn, or if you deal damage to them. Weapon attacks you make against a creature who cannot see you deal a number of d4s in extra damage equal to your proficiency bonus. That's actually a lot. So here's how this works. Let's say you're a rogue. You come up, pierce somebody with a dagger. Alright, you pierce them with the dagger. You force them to make a con save. They get blinded. Well, you're a rogue. You don't get an extra attack. But you do have a stiletto dagger on your offhand, so you get to make a bonus attack, right? You use that bonus action, offhanded weapon attack, and you get in there. And yeah, you might not get sneak attack, but you get advantage, because you already used sneak attack on the first one. But you get advantage. And if you didn't get it on the first one, then you're definitely going to use it on the second one, because now you got advantage. And then if it hits, let's say your proficiency bonus is 3, you get to roll 3d4. If it's 5, you get to roll 5d4 in extra damage, because they can't see you, and you shank them right in the neck. So it's almost kind of like getting like a free sneak attack, sort of, a little bit. Yeah, that's Vicious Cutthroat. It's kind of like it's obviously a lot weaker than the actual snake attack. By the time that you have +5 to your proficiency bonus and you use a sneak attack, I think you're rolling like fucking 8d6 or something like that. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's considerably more than my d4s. But anyway, Rend and Rake. Your strength or dex increases by 1. After dealing damage with a weapon, you may attempt to grapple the targeted creature. If the creature is still grappled by you at the start of your next turn, the grapple is broken. So it's basically a short-term grapple. They can try and break free. If they fail, the grapple goes away at the start of your next turn anyway. When you use a weapon to damage a creature grappled by you, you add a number of d4s in extra damage equal to your proficiency bonus. So, it's like this. It's almost like you take that dagger and you get them in the shoulder, and you're like grappling them with it and like moving them around, right? And then let's say you get that bonus attack, come in on the side, then you also get a little bit of extra damage. Plus, you get advantage. In fact, you can stack Vicious Cutthroat and Rend and Rake. You can attack somebody, grapple them, blind them, and then get that advantage. And then let's say you have +3 proficiency bonus. Now you're doing 64 on that next attack that you deal, because they're blinded and grappled. Yeah, I call it Diet Sneak Attack. I've actually been over this one. Artful Distraction. Many of the groups have already heard it. It's basically the opposite of the features that let you hide. This one says whenever you're in bright light or daylight, You can use your bonus action. You can try to blind a creature. Basically, you try to shine light like off of like a reflective surface and blind somebody. They get to make a save. You got a DC. The blind ends at the end of your next turn. If you deal damage to a blinded creature, the blind ends early. Any roll you make to hide from a blinded opponent that is a 9 or lower on the roll number instead becomes a 10. Plus your bonuses. And then after you successfully blind a creature, your movement speed gets doubled if you make a hide attempt. So Artful Distraction is supposed to literally be like a distraction while you reposition yourself somewhere on the field. Mobility improves your chances of being able to attack someone, removes their ability to necessarily chase after you, that sort of thing. Double Dagger Death Strike. If you have melee weapons in both hands, and both weapons have light and finesse weapon properties, then whenever you make the attack action on your turn, you may choose to make one more attack with each weapon as part of the same action. Now, these attacks can't get advantage, and you don't apply your ability modifier to the damage rolls, but you basically get 2 extra attacks for free. This one, like I was saying before, it scales off of like Rend and Rake and Vicious Cutthroat. Again, a lot of these features kind of following some themes here. Now you can blind people. Now you get advantage on people. Now you get to use these kind of low damage, fast weapons a little bit faster, but like the damage gets a little bit lower. You get to be able to hide easier, movement increasing, avoiding traps. These are the type of things that we build. So the reason why we are doing things this way is because we want players to design characters that use multiple features so that they can hyper specialize in being able to perform 1 or 2 activities very well. Features in 5th edition D&D have a massive flaw. And the flaw is a lot of them suck when it comes to making specialized actions. For example, Great Weapon Master kind of sucks. It just does. Especially if you remember what it used to do in the original 5th Ed. Now in 2024, with the update, you turn a 1 or a 2 into a 3 on your damage roll. Oh my gosh. I got 1 extra damage. I could have gotten another fucking ability point. But no, I got 1 extra damage. How cool. No, like when you get a feature that hyper specializes into the one thing that you want your character to be able to do, don't half-ass it. Give the players something that makes them feel like they aren't wasting anyone's time. And instead of it being something generalized and shitty, make it very specific and powerful. Because the players are already going to limit their own playstyle, right? You didn't need to give them a helping hand. When they took Great Weapon Master, that meant that they were planning on only using 2-handed weapons. Give them more stuff that scales with using 2-handed weapons. Because if you don't, you're kind of just punishing people for wanting to play the game. So that's why I've built a lot of these features to be able to scale on top of one another. Double Dagger Death Strike really does well with the Vicious Cutthroat and Rend and Rake. The Dungeon Dweller works great with Delver. Dungeon Survivalist and Dungeonologist are amazing together. all of the different firearms features improve each other a bunch. And then there's even, you could do rend and rake and roll to pin, and you'll be able to grapple and incapacitate people with the same action. But let's keep going for now. Because now we have Counterspell, Counterbalance. If you have the ability to cast a spell, Counterspell, you may choose to do so without using your reaction. If you cast the spell in this way, the enemy may roll using their spellcasting ability rather than their constitution if they choose to do so. So, this one is very cut and dry. It makes it so that you can cast Counterspell multiple times in a single round. But if you're doing it that way, then the enemy spellcasters get a little bit of help. They get a little bit of help because they get to use their spellcasting mod instead of their con. You'll notice that, like, starting at Artful Distraction, the features don't add ability score improvements. They actually do, I just don't have it written down on this current version that's on display. So this one would improve Int or Wiz or Charisma by 1 as well. The next feature is Bestial Savagery. When you take the attack action, you may choose to make all of your attacks made with this action without being able to add your proficiency bonus. So you lose your PB on all attack rolls. If you decide to do this, your armor class increases by an amount equal to your proficiency bonus until the start of your next turn. So you lose your PB when attacking, and you add it to your AC. While your armor class is improved this way, if you were to take damage from a source that is within range of the weapon you are currently holding, you may choose to end the bonus to your AC early, to use your reaction to make an attack roll using your weapon as the at the source of whatever the damage would be. Let's say you've buffed up your AC this way, and someone gets they roll like a nat 19, and they end up getting through your AC anyway, and you've got a hand crossbow. You can go ahead and end the bonus to your AC and shoot the guy. But if they're doing a ranged attack and you've got like a sword, they're not in range, so you can't do it. But that's not all. Clapback. When you use your Bardic Inspiration, you may target another creature within range of your Bardic Inspiration. That creature takes damage equal to your Charisma modifier plus your proficiency bonus. If you choose to deal damage to another creature this way, you may choose to give another creature within range a use of your Bardic Inspiration, if you are able. The second Bardic Inspiration does not trigger another use of this ability, so you can't, like, chain it forever. So for certain bards who may or may not be in attendance at the moment, you choose somebody, you give them your Bardic Inspiration, and then, like, there's an enemy that's within range as well, and you just zap them, and then if you do that, you can also choose to look at another one of your guys and give them Bardic Inspiration as well. Next up is By the Rope. When you use a whip, chain, or similar weapon that also has the reach property as part of your attack action, you were able to grapple your target if your attack roll hits. This will not work on creatures more than one size category larger than yourself. At the start of the target's next turn, they get a free attempt to break out of the grapple without using their action economy. At the end of the target's next turn, if this grapple is still in effect, the grapple ends. So basically, when you wallop and hit somebody with the whip or something like that, you can sort of wrap them up. This one also is getting a slight improvement. This one is going to allow you to also to add two points to your ability score. It says you have to pick one. It's got to be split. and it's going to be between strength, dex, and actually charisma. Yeah, some of the feats that are currently principally that are up here. This is the prototype. This is the first draft. Tomorrow, this document is actually getting released. Aerial strike. After you make either a high or long jump as part of your movement, the next attack roll you make before the end of your turn has advantage. For those of you that are in the Friday campaign, this is what Glosser was using. He has a version of this feat. Jumping no longer consumes your movement speed. When you can only jump as long of a distance or as high as you have movement remaining. And all of the jumping rules still apply. So this one, it's also going to be giving you either athletics or acrobatics proficiency, and it's going to be giving you an ASI. But currently in D&D, when you jump is part of your movement. So if you're trying to jump 20 feet and you only have 2 feet of movement remaining, you can't jump 20 feet. It's not like Baldur's Gate 3. This lets you do that. It lets you jump like you're in Baldur's Gate 3. And it lets you get advantage after you're done jumping around. Markiplier Punch. Okay, it is not called the Markiplier Punch. He is doing the Superman. That is the Superman Punch. When you leap in the air and come down, that is the Superman Punch. No, it's the Superman Punch. Come on. Don't be uncultured. Brainless Brawler is the next feat. What do you mean that's boring? Superman is not boring. You're boring. Farm girl. The Brainless Brawler. When you make the attack action, you're able to use your weapon to attack extra times. Once you have finished all normal attacks with said action, you may choose to attack again. This new attack is reckless and without skill. You perform this attack at disadvantage and -5 to hit. If the attack misses, you proceed to take damage equal to your ability score modifier plus your proficiency bonus. Now, the Brainless Brawler also has 2 things that aren't listed that have already been improved on. First off, ASI, obviously. Second is you can keep going. Every single time that you use this, you get -5, -5, -5. So the first time that you use this, it's -5. Second time, it's -10. Third time, it's -15. This is basically letting you swing your weapon around like a fucking idiot, hoping that you hit something. And then once you fail, you won't be able to use it anymore until next turn. Oh, and you deal damage to yourself because you're a dumbass. And then it's probably I'm probably also gonna make a change to it, so that it's gonna be like the Barbarian Reckless attack. Attacks against you will have advantage after you do it. But you basically get to keep attacking until you miss. We've already talked about Rapid Draw. The next one is Close Shave. After performing a saving throw, if you were to take damage as a result, you may reduce that damage by a number of d4s equal to your proficiency bonus once per every short rest. So, like, if you roll a dex save and you're still going to take that cold to cold damage anyway, that cone of cold can have the damage reduced by, 3d4, 4d4, or whatever it is. After using the feature, you may choose to use a number of hit die equal to your proficiency bonus and instantly restore that many hit points. If you choose to use this secondary ability, you will not be able to use Close Shave until after you finish a long rest. Pretty self-explanatory. Cone of Cold, right? You use Close Shave, you reduce some of the incoming damage, and then you're like, okay, this dude just blasted us with the Cone of Cold, and I'm at half health. I don't know what else they've got up their sleeve. I rolled 4d4, my proficiency bonus is 4, right? So now I'm going to roll 4 of my hit die and add my con mod 4 times, and I'm going to restore that much damage. But now you can't use Close Shave even after you take a short rest. You have to take a long rest. The next one is called Drop It. This is Disarm. This is a disarm. It clarifies when you hit somebody, you do damage to them, and you get to try and grapple them. Sort of. It's not actually a grapple. You just use your grapple DC. If they fail the grapple DC, then they drop something that you choose that they're holding in your hand. And then if it's a two-handed item, then they drop it because it requires 2 hands, and you just made them lose a hand. Drop It is going to do an extra thing, two extra things that aren't on here. First off, ASI, obviously. And then second, you're going to be able to pick up the shit that they drop. And then if it's a weapon, you have the advantage to use it against you. The second to last is Professional Power Napper. When you take a short rest, you may choose to make yourself unconscious during its duration. This can either be from sleep, meditation, or something similar in nature. So long as you remain unconscious for the entire duration, when you use your hit die to restore hit points as part of the short rest, you may add your proficiency bonus to each die you roll. So you get a bunch of extra HP when you're in a short rest. After restoring hit points through this feature, your movement speed is increased by 10 feet for the next hour. In addition, you are able to ignore the negative effects of 1 level of exhaustion for 8 hours. If your exhaustion would kill you, meaning you have 6 levels of exhaustion, you instead fall unconscious during this 8-hour duration until it ends, or your exhaustion is removed. If you are still unconscious in this way after the duration ends, you die. If you have 6 layers of levels of exhaustion, you die. So if 8 hours goes by, and sometimes during that 8 hours you somehow got 6 levels of exhaustion, you drop to fall unconscious, and then someone has to get the exhaustion off of you, or you die when the duration of Professional Power Napper ends. And then the last one that's on this preview is Rolo Tomasi, because I like LA Confidential. I do. I just we can separate the art from the artist when it comes to He Who Shall Not Be Named, especially because it has Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer in it. I love them both. Rolo Tomasi, when you are hit by an attack roll and would be dealt damage, you may instead use your reaction to change the target of the attack roll to another creature within 5 feet of you. So, yeah, if someone's wailing on you with a critical hit, and there is a target within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction and make it somebody else. The next attack roll made against the creature you chose this way is done with advantage. Now here's something that also is on there. The next attack roll against you is also going to have advantage as well. And then Rolo Tomasi is also going to give you an ASI. So, this is the preview. These are the features that have been added. These are some of the things that you guys will be getting. If you are a paid player at a table, you will be getting this for free tomorrow. If if you are not a paid player at a table, I don't know how you're gonna do it, but you can send me $5 and I'll give it to you. Although I don't think, I think my account was flagged still on Twitch, so I don't think that we're actually getting anyone who isn't either on the server or that I've contacted. Yeah, that's, I will say, this has been a real big headache. I have now emailed Twitch support 5 times. I've only gotten 3 emails back, and all 3 emails have said, your account was automatically flagged because we saw troubling, hold on, let me pull it up. What am I doing? I'll read it directly from the email. Let's see here. Loading now. Hello, games. It appears that your account's chat connection was automatically flagged and temporarily blocked to prevent abuse. This can sometimes be the result of users on the connection appearing abusive in chat, using usage of third-party browser add-ons or extensions impacting the connection, or other connection issues. Please refrain from behavior such as chat ban evasion in order to avoid this happening in the future. What fucking chat ban evasion? I've never been able to chat in other people's chat, and so they've flagged my account as spam. Yeah. I legitimately have no clue if my channel is even discoverable, let alone whether or not I'm even allowed to chat on other people's chat rooms. Kind of gonna make it hard to collab, you know what I mean, with other people in the community who I know are trying to come up and be streamers. If I literally can't chat and collab with them, just a little problem, little snag, just a little snag. Okay. Yeah, seriously. Oh, Asmongold is allowed to say a bunch of Nazi rhetoric about committing genocide and butchering queer people and Muslims all day long. He doesn't get any of that. I make an account and get automatically flagged as spam. Like, there's something going on here. Okay. Now that we are done with the features, we're gonna go ahead and close them out here. Give me a second. That is most of what I wanted to talk about tonight. That is the things that I promised that I was going to be sharing earlier. It is at this time, I'm going to open the floor up to see if there's anything else that people want to hear before stream ends. Let me ask the chat. I know we got a couple of players who had some questions. Is there anyone here that had something else that I was supposed to touch on tonight that you wanted to hear from? Or is there anything that you wanted me to continue and elaborate on that I was already talking about tonight? I feel a little bit like I'm playing one of my games. Come on, guys. All right, you guys finished the fight. What's next? I just got done with the feats. The feats are done. I'm already done. The feats are. I need to work on finalizing this doc, and then I'm gonna send it out to you guys. Shit. Okay. I think it's been a couple of hours since we started streaming. Let me see here. How long has it actually been? Oh, yeah, no, it's been 2 hours. 2 hours just talking about the new feats coming out. Cool, cool, cool. So we're going to go ahead and close out here for the evening. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. I know that I'm scheduled to stream again on Wednesday and on Saturday. There may be some during the day streams on either Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. I'm going to try and give people a heads up before that happens. As usual, I'm going to be doing some slow improvements to the streaming, helping out with some of the subscriber stuff, getting some of these chat overlays done, all of that. Oh my gosh, thank you, Tony! For gifting a sub. I don't know how to set those up, so I'm going to be using the next couple of days to figure out how to actually give out sub rewards, emotes, different tiers, and all of that sort of thing. I also want to do like I want the flashy stuff. I want the flashy stuff. I want it so that when you gift. And activate subs, it does the thing where it's got that, where it like yells at me and it calls me a slut or whatever, and says this person gave you money, so you have to acknowledge that they exist. Yeah, I got it. Alerts, I guess that's what they're called. But anyway, thank you very much, Tony. We are wrapping up here for the night. The next stream on Wednesday is probably going to be a Magic the Gathering and WoW stream. And then on Saturday, it is going to be the Summoner stream for the new Summoner class. So on the off chance that there is anybody who is new and has not yet followed me here on Twitch, and you are looking to improve upon the resources that you can play when you're playing D&D or any other D20 TTRPG, definitely give me a follow. Make sure to tune in on Saturday, because I'm going to be going over the Summoner class, a play-tested, balanced class that uses pre-generated creature stats. And it'll come with 3 different subclasses, a plethora of monster stat blocks, and a new rule system for identifying enemy creature features and being able to put them on the creatures that you summon. Then that'll be on Saturday. Wednesday stream, gonna have some fun. I need a break. Saturday stream, get ready for Summoner. Thank you all for watching this evening. Like I said before, you can follow me on Blue Sky is really where I update the most. I don't use fascist Twitch. If you are interested in joining these tables, you can hit me up on Start Playing Games. Just look up Wintersong Games. I am in the top percentile of DMs on Start Playing. Tons of reviews, all 5-star. The link to the Discord information is also on Start Playing as well. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. Have a wonderful and safe time, and hopefully I'll see you guys before next week. Peace out, y'all.